meeting of the Vergennes City Council meeting to order, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, are there any amendments to our agenda? Okay, hearing none. We have no scheduled visitors, is that correct?
That's correct.
All righty, let's move on to the approval of minutes and warrants. The warrants have been circulated. Any,
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
is there a second? Second. Any discussion, any additions, corrections? Very thorough minutes, Joan, in which I found no errors.
Well, that
Yeah, exactly.
shows that 23 hours of effort was
Paid
very
off.
valuable.
Paid off.
Yes.
All right, there being no discussion, all those in favor of approving them as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, minutes approved. Are there any citizens' comments that are not otherwise on tonight's agenda? And I believe everyone does have an agenda. Great. Let's move forward to our business. First order of business is the adoption of Robert's Rules of Order for boards and committees.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving forward, election of senior alderman. I believe slash deputy mayor.
Well, yeah, it should say of the senior alderman, but anyway, the resolution says we call him the deputy mayor. So you actually, by the charter, you actually choose. You still need to choose a senior alderman.
Senior alderman.
What you call him will be based on the resolution that you adopted at the last meeting.
Or whether it's to his face or behind his back.
That's true.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
So you do need to elect the senior alderman.
Make a motion to elect Jeff as senior alderman, soon to be deputy mayor.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No one's opposed. Review and adoption of the conflict of interest policy.
So this, hopefully, one of us, I don't think I have Jonah signable copy here. Maybe I do, but then again, maybe I do. I do. So anyway, obviously, the only change that we made was the date. And Lynn was actually going to call in. If you recall, at one point, Lynn talked a little bit to the board about maybe something in our conflict of interest policy and conflicting with Robert's Rules of Order. And she's not here to talk about it, but my feeling is that there really is no conflict. I think that the board, by adopting Robert's Rules of Order for boards and committees and signing this conflict of interest policy, I think that you agree to abide by both of those sets of rules. It's not like one of them trumps the other one. I think you have to follow both of them. Now, again, Lynn's not here to rebut what I just said, but that is how I feel. Obviously, this conflict of interest policy, if you approve it and sign it, that's your policy. I think there's a provision in here where you can amend it. There is an annual review, but there's a policy, and I think that if somebody wants to amend the policy, I think you certainly can do that. I don't think that there's anything in there that would preclude you from being able to amend this policy. And I will tell you that effective July 1, 2018 or 19, we've been doing this for years, but there's now a law required that you have a conflict of interest policy. So you're actually meeting, this isn't optional, or it soon really is not optional for you.
Okay. So, we probably do.
I'll make the motion to sign the new conflict of interest policy.
Yeah,
And a
so
second?
you can use that one as.
Any further discussion? All righty, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Right, motion carries. Appointments.
No, you're gonna-
Oh, I did, I skipped over designation of newspaper, shame on me.
Right, so there's a statute, 17 VSA 2641, that requires the legislative body to designate a newspaper on an annual basis. And it's Joan and my recommendation that the board designate the Addison Independent as our newspaper of record, if you will, which is used for all of our public notices. Obviously, what that's for is because although there are options out there, it's important that the public have one source, one guaranteed source to look at. It's not to say that you can't use others, you can, but by designating this, that is our newspaper of record.
All right, do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
And a second? Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Now we move on to the appointments.
So I'm hoping, or suggesting, Jeff, that we can deal with 5E in one motion. Obviously, if you want to handle these separately, you certainly can, but I think it might be more efficient to just simply have Jeff tell you who these people are and what the suggested appointments are.
Okay. So you might have to help me because
Sure.
I didn't write all of these down. But Mel and I talked today, and as delinquent tax collector, we are recommending the reappointment of Mel Hawley through July 24th. For tree warden, Mel Hawley through July 24th. Joan Devine is our service officer. The revolving loan fund committee designee from the city council is currently Lynn.
Currently Lynn, her term ran out, on election day.
Election
So
day.
she doesn't, even though she ran and won, she doesn't automatically get that. So your options are any of you, all right? But somebody, under the policy, you need to appoint someone to be the city council representation on the revolving loan fund committee. And not that it necessarily matters, but the way the policy reads is that the term of that appointment runs with the term of the appointee. So like, for instance, if you were to appoint Lynn Donnelly, she would be appointed to this committee through March of 2020. Mark, on the other hand, if you were appointed this, your term would run until March of 19. So,
Did Lynn want to do it again?
She said she would.
yeah, but yeah, I haven't talked to her recently, but I also remember at an earlier meeting, she also mentioned, that maybe others might want to be involved. I mean, if somebody wanted to, so, I can, if you want to hold that one, why don't we hold it? And it'd be
That's great.
okay.
We
Yeah,
can hold
I
that
don't think,
for her.
if we're a little outside of our policies, so be it.
Okay.
Okay, well, I think so. I don't have the policy.
Unless somebody else wants to jump into the fray.
Yeah, I don't think that she would be insulted if somebody else was interested in participating.
I'll look and see how far outside we are.
Why don't we just table it up to the next,
Next meeting.
table it up to the next meeting?
Okay, all right.
Okay. Bixby Library trustee designation is Chris Bradford, who has agreed to continue. And the Board of Supervisors member and alternate member, I'm sorry, I just,
So Cheryl Brinkman
Cheryl Brinkman, right?
is our member, and she has agreed to serve. And I have been my alternate member and would agree to serve until July 24th.
Okay. So those are the appointments. Is there a motion to accept them? Minus the revolving loan fund committee designee from the city council.
Second?
And seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Liquor licenses, outside consumption permits, live entertainment licenses, and outside seating agreements.
So Joan and Melissa handle really the top three of these, and I handle the one on the bottom, but would suggest that you act on these in one motion is fine. One of the things that we do is we do communicate with Chief Merkel relative to our licensed establishments. And I would recommend that you approve this entire slate except for the liquor license and live entertainment license for City Limits Nightclub, and not take action on that one this evening. But that would be taken up at either of the license is good, their current license is good through the end of April, but I would like you to hold on issuance of that license until April, till the next meeting.
Now that you can divulge, or is it something you'd rather discuss at the next meeting?
Well, what I would like is I would like an opportunity for you to get the memorandum that is expected from George. And I don't have it, I don't have that memo yet. I certainly know some of the concerns that will be outlined in that memo, but liquor licenses are a little odd about, I mean, you all know that you are the local control commissioner. I don't really know my role in regard to that, but George works for me, and we just think that it's prudent because the reality is that the Vergennes Police Department deals with alcohol-related issues, all right? And so it is logical for Joan and I to be communicating with the chief of police as it relates to the serving of alcohol. And because I've had that conversation, but I don't want to request anything other than just holding that. And then when I get this memorandum and meet with George, we will take, I would suggest that we take it up. So I'm not concluding anything. I have enough information to know that I think that we should just hold that one.
Okay, understood.
And I will make that motion.
Is there a second? Second. Any further discussion?
I need to add something.
Oh, the condition?
Yeah.
Okay. There is a standard condition, hopefully we can handle this as a friendly amendment, that with this approval includes the standard condition on live entertainment licenses that exterior doors and windows to the establishment must remain closed during the period of live entertainment. We're going to get rid of the word time in there, Joan.
During
The period of live entertainment.
Okay. Any opposition to that amendment? Any,
And I have one other thing. In the list of liquor licenses that went out to you guys, Porky's Place is also a liquor license application that just got emailed to me yesterday. They just barely got their 217 and their renewal for their 218. So they signed it and gave me checks. so that we could also renew theirs at the same time, but their name is not on your list. And I want you to be aware that they are also seeking to renew.
So we need
We
that
need
to be friendly as well.
Another, yes, any opposition to that? Anything else, Joan?
Nope.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Advertisement in Vergennes map by Douglas Lazarus.
So let me just tell you that there are a number of requests that land on my desk, of which I may deal with and bring to your attention, and there's some that never see the light of day, and you can imagine how much mail comes in your personal mailbox. So first off, please don't think that every time I get a piece of mail or hear from some citizen about money, it's going to get on the city council agenda. However, in this instance, this I felt I shouldn't throw this away or deny this idea, and I think that the city council should have an opportunity to review it and consider it. So what I gave to you was, in essence, a copy of this information, and Jeff and I have had a brief conversation about this. On the one hand, I think that it is important that we do have things for visitors to come to our community, if they're boaters, to be handed information to make their way around. So I do support having brochures, that there be brochures. How they're done and who pays for them and all that type of thing, that's a whole nother question. So all that I would say is that, if the city council is so inclined to participate financially in this effort, again, if you feel that you want to participate in this effort, that I would suggest that the source of money be the donations, the donation fund at the Otter Creek Basin Fund, and not any of our other funds or general fund. That is, and it's just my own personal feeling. I as you can tell, I struggle with using taxpayer money for advertising. It's just my nature, all right? So this is not a table pounder in my regard. Like I said, I didn't want to just deny this and then have the city council say, how come you didn't let us know about this? So in this instance, I just felt it should go to the board for action.
So you're looking to us for an opinion?
Opinion, or if you, I think there's nothing in the, there's not a line item in the budget for this type of thing. So I would welcome your opinion, but also, if you want to do this, you need to make I think you need to make an allocation from somewhere. Or, you can take no action. There's nothing that requires you to take action. Sure, absolutely.
Is the city dock what we would be
Yes.
putting in? Okay.
Yeah.
Any opinions?
I think, I have a question. I don't see anything relative to distribution or anything, really. And I think that, I certainly, it looks nice. One of the first things that you ask yourself when you are dealing with advertising and marketing is, what is it that you're trying to do? And so I don't really know enough about this. If it's going where it's distributed, I'm assuming, going out on a limb here, that they would probably be at the information booth and maybe down at the falls and maybe a few other places. But I think we should have a discussion about what it is, because I don't really know based on this. If it's I'm not sure, I'm not saying I'm opposed to it, but we just have to have a discussion about what it is that it's intended to do, because if it's a nice thing to provide for visitors to the city, and we decide to do it for that reason, that's fine. If we're thinking that something that probably has limited distribution is a marketing initiative, or there's any sort of return on investment on it, it's probably not, so.
Do the docks tend to fill up without this? I mean,
I'm going to say yes. I mean, obviously, you know,
Usually there's boats down there.
the author, I believe, is doing this as, you know, as to provide information to visitors. That's what, he sees this as a need. Obviously, you know, this is a private enterprise, private effort, all right? You know, so, you know, he sees that people need, he feels that people need this type of thing, but obviously he has a self-interest here. I mean, there's no question about that.
I think to David's point, if we could have Doug stop by at our next meeting and kind of get in his philosophy, distribution points, is this the actual stock? I mean, it's great, it's a nice vehicle, but I'd like a little more information as well.
Yep.
How do you feel?
I think if we already have the docks full, telling people to come to the docks is just gonna add chaos, because people come in there and they're already full without advertising. So unless we're gonna expand the
I don't think
docks.
it's exclusively docks, though. I mean, it's.
Well, no, I just mean that's the ad we're putting in. If we're paying $250 to say, come to the city docks, and the city docks are filling up all on their own, then we're not really advertising anything that we need. Because there apparently is enough knowledge out there that we have city docks.
Yeah, I'm going to make an assumption, Mark, that this is just a placeholder, as they're trying to put it in front of us, that, because we haven't signed off on this being in here.
Right. Yeah, I think that, Matt, that's correct. What goes in there, you know, is a decision, and I don't,
Is that the ad that they were
well,
expecting?
I didn't
Okay.
suggest anything. this thing came to me
Got
by
it.
Doug, so it wasn't my idea, all right? And I think if anything, you know, Doug is you know, the $350, I'm not so sure that he views it as being $350 for that ad. I think he's viewing it $350 for this information, which happens to contain this ad.
Subject to change.
Yes, yeah.
Got it.
I like it, but I would like to know distribution and, yeah.
So, no action, and we'll contact Doug.
Abatement of tax and sewer balances due to late fees.
So, first off, I don't want to spend a lot of time over $22.10, but I will tell you that X number of years ago, I don't know, Joan, 7 to 8 years ago, when we established the grace period, it actually was one of the best things that we ever did. It just absolutely turned the tables. You know, people would come in a day late and get hammered with fees, and they would pay an $8 fee, and we got $14 worth of complaints. So when we adopted that grace period, turned that around, it really is a much better system. And we really felt that it would always work, all right? And it has. It's worked marvelously until the post office really, you know, I can't think of a better word to say than messes up. I think that they would agree themselves. We have a taxpayer that mailed their taxes on and sewer payments on February 15th. You have a copy of the envelope. It is addressed to P.O. Box 35, 120 Main Street, Vergennes, Vermont 05491. I don't know what else the post office needed, but for some reason, that got rejected, and it took weeks for it to get back to the Duquettes, all right? So what happened, we obviously sent them a late notice complete with interest and penalty. They obviously, you know, I mean, I don't check my checkbook every day to see if what check is cleared, but anyway, it obviously came to a surprise to them. And normally, we can rely upon the 15-day grace period. And sorry, we have a 15 grace period. This one here, I don't know that it's Joan and my job to defend the post office, but it is our job to take care of our people. And the city council by our charter is the board of abatement, and without boring you with all the legalities, we would recommend that the way that it works in our accounting system, we do have their money, but the system takes interest and penalty first, leaving them with a balance of tax and sewer. So we would recommend that you, based on this evidence, you abate the amounts. There's two amounts there, so that this is behind us, and look forward to the post office doing a better job in the future.
I'll make the motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There you go, motion carries.
Super.
All right, I think we have time to...
Oh, yeah, sure. We can keep cranking,
We
yeah.
can keep cranking. We have
Yeah.
time to handle the certificate, no appeal or suit pending for the 2017 grand list.
Sure. Most of you recall that this is an annual event, that when there are no pending appeals to a grand list under the statute, we have the ability to close that year out by way of a certificate. I think that certificate can be done in February, I think, Joan, something like that. It's no sooner than something, all right? So we could have brought this in last month, but, we didn't. So anyway, we would recommend that the city, I don't think any action is needed, Joan. I think they just need to sign the certificate, or do you want action?
I'd like to see them take action.
Okay. So what it is a motion is needed to approve the certificate, no appeal, suit pending for 2017 grand list.
I will make that motion.
Motion made, seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Yep. So I can assure you that if we did have an appeal or suit pending, you would have known about it as members of the VCA.
Can we handle the appointments to the Planning Commission in 3 minutes?
Yeah, I think so. So the Planning Commission has currently been working with 5 members. Statutorily, because we are a city, our Planning Commission can have between 5 and 9 members. We routinely operate with 7 members, only because there's 8 chairs at the table, 7 for the members and 1 for me. And so we have had this vacancy going back till last August because Jason Farrell and Morgan Kittredge opted not to continue. And because the Planning Commission at the time was working diligently on the amendments to the zoning, felt to just continue with that 5 as opposed to bringing new people in the midstream of a process. That process is off their plate, and so therefore Shannon, there isn't any real clear rules of who's supposed to do what, but Shannon, with a little bit of help from me, put an ad out in Front Porch, notice out in Front Porch Forum, solicit folks. And so we were looking for 2 seats, and I can tell you that we are pleased to inform you that 3 highly qualified people expressed interest. And the 3 people are Carrie McFarlane, which I think you know. She's involved with our website. Danelle Barong, that I know that you know, and Christine Garrow. Christine Garrow is a newcomer to Vergennes. I know that, Jeff. I got 50 seconds. Is a newcomer to Vergennes. Owns a house on Hopkins Road that she purchased at the end of December. She's a UVM graduate, and go Cats go. And she is an environmental attorney. So she's interested in becoming connected to the community, and it was nice for Shannon's Front Porch Forum post. So in this instance, this has happened before where we have had 2 people vying for 1 seat or 3 people vying for 2 seats. And what we have recommended in the past and recommend tonight is for the city council to appoint all 3 people and have the planning commission operate with 8 members for a while. And we would recommend that there's no backstory to what I'm about to say, because people have to land somewhere on this chart. We would recommend that Carrie McFarlane be appointed to the Planning Commission for a term expiring August 1, 2018. We would hope that she would continue. And Christine Garrow and Danelle Barong to the Planning Commission for a term expiring August 1, 2019. Obviously, sometime in July, we would be coming back to you as there's other people, namely Shannon, John Coburn, and Cheryl. Their terms expire August 1. So the recommendation is to appoint Carrie McFarlane to the term ending August 1, 2019, and 2018, and Christine Garrow and Danelle Barong to a term ending August 1, 2019.
Motion made. Seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. We will now recess this meeting for our public hearing on the proposed amendments to the zoning and subdivision regulations. Am I to read this? Sure, or would you like to read it?
You can read it.
You can read it.
I got some other I'll read the next thing.
I'll read that,
can
you read the
that.
next thing. Okay, perfect.
That can keep on and send that down. But
Notice is hereby given to the residents of the city of Vergennes, owners of land within said city, and other interested parties, persons and parties, that the city council will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, March 27th, 2018, at 6 p.m. in the Vergennes Fire Station Meeting Room, as required by 24 VSA Section 4442. The purpose of the public hearing is for the city council to hear and receive testimony regarding the amendments to the Vergennes zoning and subdivision regulations as proposed by the Vergennes Planning Commission. A copy of the full text and accompanying map is on file in the city clerk's office for public examination. Statement of purpose. The purpose of amending the zoning and subdivision regulations is to bring them into conformance with the amendments to the municipal development plan that were approved by the city council in 2017, to identify a planning unit development as development method rather than a use consistent with 24 VSA Section 4417, to create a solar energy overlay district, to identify prime locations for siting and regulating solar energy products greater than 15 kilowatts consistent with 24 VSA Section 4414 subsection 2, and to clarify the regulations with minor amendments. The entire city of Vergennes is affected. Do I need to continue?
you're doing a great job, Jeff.
Section 106, definitions. Section 1003, applicability, planned unit development. Section 1006C, density. Section 1006D, density bonus. Section 1006J, energy conservation. Section 1202.1, off-street parking requirements. Section 1306.1, or it might be I.
No, it's a one.
Isn't-
That would be,
It should be a 1?
I think it's an I.
Or is it an I?
I think it should be.
It's reading
But
it.
it could be.
1306, sandwich board signs shall.
That is an I.
That is an I.
Yes.
I, sandwich boards sign shall. There we go. Section 1309, sign lighting. Section 1408.C, residential buildings on lots. Section 1501, accessory structures. Section 1511, garages, Section 1601, establishment of zoning districts, Section 1604D, historic neighborhood district, coverage maximum, Section 1604.f.11, historic neighborhood district, demolition, Section 1609.f.2.f, central business district, residential uses on street, ground, or basement level, Section 1613B, northern gateway district, add hotel as conditional use, Section 1617, solar energy overlay district, and Section 1618, illustrated guidelines.
Good.
Thank you.
You should ask if there's
Is there
anybody
any-
from the audience that wants to make any
Exactly. Any comment?
testimony.
The only additional testimony might be a comment on the letter that you just
Sure.
received.
So Jeff, yeah, so first off, let me just say that this isn't really true, but I'll say it just the same. One of the reasons why I really wanted to get the appointments taken care of before this is because we actually had a quorum of the planning commission out there. But now that we have 8 members on the board, there's not a quorum issue any longer. So I'm glad you snuck that in there. So anyway, we did receive a letter from Scott Hardy that I would just read into the record, and Andy will, if you can, we'll get that down to Andy. Dear City Council, I apologize in advance for not being here personally to testify my position on the zoning changes in the high-density districts. My daughter's sports schedule has me otherwise conflicted. As a longtime Vergennes outskirts resident and now Vergennes landowner and developer, I have always seen Vergennes as a special gem on the west side of Vermont. Access to the lake, Middlebury, Burlington, and Adirondacks are also central for this town. Additionally, the multitude of services, stores, restaurants, and small businesses make living in Vergennes an ideal location. To me, it makes logical sense to adjust the high-density residential minimum lot size from 15,000 square feet to 10,000 square feet, a shift from the medium-density residential zone currently. We already offer 70 feet minimum street frontage for high-density residential, so we are forcing lots to go from 100 by 150 in medium-density residential to 70 by 214.3 feet in high-density residential. Ideally, maintaining the same lot depth would make sense and set it at 70 by 150, which would be 10,500 square feet. Secondly, while I agree and totally support energy consideration and upgrades, putting LEED into zoning regulations as an incentive for new construction does not incentivize all the current housing stock in Vergennes that would be upgraded, creating a much bigger savings and less consumption. Perhaps a tax credit of some sort to offset these improvements would be a way to create incentives versus adding it in a building density regulation alone. Finally, while affordable elderly housing is important for a community, incentivizing elderly construction and limiting those houses to just the 55 plus and older is not the best for the community in whole, nor these people living in these communities. What makes an old dog act younger, ? A new puppy. There are proven studies where multi-generational living is best for everyone. Older retirees are available to watch younger children for younger families. Younger families are there to assist older residents with tasks that become strenuous as they age. We should not be creating segregated communities. We should be creating inclusive communities. Between the above points and the fact that most of Vergennes residential single-family housing sits on 7,000 to 8,000 square foot lots, why not help create more utilization of the little land left in Vergennes for all ages and income levels?
So I just wanted to speak to some of the points that Scott was making here. For the density changing the density from 15,000 to 10,000 square feet in the high-density residential section. This was under a lot of discussion from the Planning Commission, and at the end of the day, we more or less decided we don't want to make that change just yet, simply because it came to us very late in the process. And when that is also combined with some of the density bonuses that are out there, we were very concerned about what unintended consequences could happen to some of the parcels in that section. You know, we, in theory, support that idea of changing that lot size, but we want to get some more input from some of the public, especially people who are living in that district. And we want to take a look at the density bonus part to make sure that whatever we end up doing does what we want it to do and doesn't end up blowing up in our faces. So that's why we kind of put that off at this point. Just a point on talking about LEED, that's not anything that we're proposing to amend right now. That's something that was in our regulations for the last 8 or 9 years. But when we take a look at the density size, lot density in the high-density residential section, we will be looking at that as well. You know, it's an aspirational thing. We've also been putting in some other third-party energy efficiency metrics as opposed to just LEED. So there's more to the story than what's here, and I just wanted to point that out.
Any other comments?
So if there's no comments, all you need to do is close the hearing, and we'll
Right.
take this matter up under item M.
Great. So we will close this hearing at 6:13, it looks like, and reconvene our city council meeting. And we have now reached the report of the city manager search committee. So there are several bits of paper in your packet, and we have just a couple of items that we actually need to take a little action on. The first item we sent out was the committee's recommendation for the revision of the job description that we approved at our last meeting, I believe. Does anyone have any comments they'd like to make on this? Essentially, what we did was used a template that has been used in other places in Vermont, and we took the contents of our job description and placed them in this format. In our research, it is a format that is pretty commonly presented out there. I'm not sure that we need to take any specific action because it's essentially the document we've already approved.
Yeah, I know the board reviewed the job description. You're only referring to job description?
Correct.
All right. So I think that was approved.
That was approved. This is just a change in format.
Part of the approval was that you're also giving the committee a little
Some
leeway.
Correct, correct. So this is the job description which we are presenting to you tonight. Then the other thing we've included is the formal posting of the city manager position. There is a procedure that we'd like to undertake. First of all, let me back up a little bit and tell you about that procedure. One thing we want to do is start advertising next week. Time is certainly of the essence, and we have a pretty tight schedule. So we intend to place an abbreviated ad, which we've also included in your packet, that will direct folks to the Vergennes City website, where we will have an instruction page that will take them to the full job description and also the full job posting. And they will be directed to send their cover letter and resume to, I think the address is Vergennes City Council at vergennes.org. Right. Currently, that is a email address that I have access to as the chair of the search committee, and once the position has been filled, we intend to open that up to the city council to use for other purposes as a means of communication with the city council. Did anyone have any questions on the posting? Any commentary on it? One thing that we after some discussion with Mel and some great deal of discussion on the committee, we're having difficulty establishing a salary range that is commensurate with the experience range that we feel we want. We originally recommended a range that was slightly lower than the 60 to 85,000 that we have in our posting. And we were also asking for 10 years experience, as we have in our job description, which, by the way, is one change to the job description. We considered 5 years experience, and I think have now sort of landed on 5 to 10 years experience, and we've broadened the salary range in the hopes that we can attract perhaps a broader range of people. There are some other recommendations coming out of the committee that we haven't really formalized yet, but one of them is that we really need to take a good long look at personnel in City Hall. Is Mel's job one person's job? Is it two persons' jobs? So that's some action that the council is going to have to take at some point pretty soon. Yes, sir.
Can I get a copy of either the job description or of the format of the job description? Simply because the Planning Commission is working on a job description for the zoning administrator.
I can
wanna make
email it
sure
to
it's
you.
consistent.
I'll email it to you, Shannon.
Thank you.
Yep, I'll do that. Okay.
Jeff, assuming it goes out next week, is there initial feeling as to how long you'll run it, the first pass?
We plan, well, let's go to the calendar. So our proposed timeline is that we will post the position on the 2nd, which is Monday. And by the way, Joan has lined things up so that all we have to do is get documents, and we can have this all on our website tomorrow as soon as the documents are finished. And then we are proposing that we advertise through the 16th. There is enough leeway in this schedule. Should we find it necessary to go back out again, we will have time to do that. What that will really drive is when we decide to schedule interviews. The committee was charged with bringing 3 to 5 good quality candidates. The committee feels pretty strongly that it's going to be 3, that it's really our job to narrow it down even further. Any questions?
The only other comment I have is that Mel doesn't currently work under a contract with the city, so this would be another document we need to produce prior to.
Correct, and it is the recommendation of the committee that we hire this person under contract.
All right,
Okay.
good.
Any comment on the salary range? Any comment on the years of experience we're requesting? Calendar sounds good to everyone. All right. The committee will meet again Thursday evening, and we will have the job posted on Monday. Okay?
Great progress.
Thank you. All right. No other questions, then we'll move on to the city council meeting schedule.
So this was given to you at the last meeting in hopes that folks would take a look at their personal calendars and be ready for this meeting here. So what I'd like to be able to do is to see if this is ready to be put on our website. We will correct the typo in the November 27th. We'll get a comma in there for sure. Basically, the city council meets on the 2nd and 4th Tuesday of every month, and based on this calendar, there is an exception for the month of July and December. All of the other months are call for 2 meetings. So if you all know some conflicts that would result in quorum issues, it'd be good to know that now. Obviously, if you run into this at some point, you'll obviously need to deal with it, but we'd like to get this on our website so that people know when the city council is meeting.
I already got a calendar, so.
You're
can't
good?
change it.
Okay?
It's done.
Okay? All right, so we'll get that on, Joan, we'll get that on tomorrow.
Great. All right, proposed amendments to the zoning and subdivision regulations.
So you're, under the statute, you are required to have 2 public hearings. Tonight was your first one, which you were required to hold based on exactly what was given to you by the Planning Commission. So that is behind you. So your action tonight is to either do nothing tonight, and you can continue your review for a while. I will tell you that the law requires you to do something within a year. And if you don't do anything with a year, it just dies a natural death.
And also, a point of clarification on that, in the time where you have the proposed amendments, any land use applications have to meet both the current amendments and the proposed amendments.
Correct. For the second, for this now, right this very second?
Basically, once
that-
we submit the,
Well, actually, once they set that warning.
yeah.
Okay, so we're in this limbo, and, you know, it's not, I shouldn't say limbo. I don't mind reading 2 different sets of zoning regulations, but one of the things is, let's say, for instance, there was included in here was where the setback requirement in the medium-density residential district is currently 15 feet, and the proposed side yard setback is 10. In that instance, an application would need to meet both. And if I flip those numbers around, they still need to meet both. So basically, as zoning administrator and the DRB, they need to keep an eye on both of those during this period. You know, it's not insurmountable. It just happens. So thanks for bringing that up, Shannon. So one of the things, if the board, you know, you got some testimony from Scott. You can do nothing tonight. You can bring this up at your next meeting, or you could simply move forward with the scheduling of your next, what more than likely would be your final public hearing. And at that hearing, you obviously can take further testimony, and once that hearing closes, you either adopt what you have proposed, or if you want to make changes, then you need to hold another public hearing, because your final step is to adopt what was warned. So, whatever your pleasure, you know, we have the calendar here, and I don't think it's one of the things, Jan, it's not a 30-day notice. That law has been changed. And so you could conceivably have your hearing on April, the second, I think the second one, there is a 15-day requirement. It's just not 30 any longer. So I believe that we can meet the notice requirement for an April 24th hearing, if you so choose.
Do we need a motion? We'll go ahead and do that.
I think that you set that date, so I don't set it. So I think somebody should move to authorize the scheduling of your public hearing for that date, and that's what we will do.
Move to hold the second public hearing on April 24th at 6 o'clock PM in the midst of our normal business.
I will second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. City managers report.
Sure. So budget report, My budget report is just a little bit more updated than yours, only because mine includes the bills that were entered into the system since Friday. Revenues appear to be fine, other than police fines do seem to be lower, and which is maybe on the one hand, maybe people are getting it. And so if people are getting it, there aren't as many offenders, or not, or people aren't paying their fines. That's another option, but that's really the only line item. Here we are 3/4 of the way through our fiscal year. So, not to pick on police fines, but there is another month that gets collected in July for June fines. And, but again, that's really the only line item that is off. When you see zeros in here, it's because, like in the case of Act 60 Lister support, that's a check that the state sends us. It's all at once. So I think revenues are okay. Administration, so if you look at the bottom line and you think we're 3/4 of the way through the year, and so you obviously think 75%, it's a little bit more involved than that relative to really how we're doing it. So first off, in the warrant tonight was paying the 4th installment of our property and casualty insurance. So we have made all 4 payments of that, and so items involving property insurance, liability insurance, workers' compensation insurance, those have been paid for the year. So on the one hand, that's one reason why the total is above 75%. If you've spent that much money on insurance at the 100%, it's not uncommon for that to drive that number beyond. So that's in that regard. However, also in the matter of medical insurance, we've already paid for April. So we have paid for 10 months already, all right? And so that's behind us. So when you think of those are insurance items, all right, and we're just slightly over 75%, it really shows that we're in pretty good shape. Now, if Jim Larrow and George have got a bunch of purchases out there that I don't know about, and those bills come in, those would be the surprises. But clearly at administration, that's really in good shape. Police, 79%. Initially, you think, gosh, that's a little high. However, insurances have been paid. You'll notice that the bond and the bond interest has been paid. So really, all of those required expenses are behind us. So I do feel a lot better today than I did a few months ago when we were reviewing this. But I did have a conversation with George yesterday about the fact that he really needs to watch overtime, all right? So on the one hand, straight time is under 75%, but overtime is over. Now, I will tell you that we only have one part-time officer. And when you only have one part-time officer, when somebody's sick and somebody's got to fill that shift, it's at the overtime rate. So I think that's what's driving that number. I also think that maybe I was a little, can't think of the word I'm thinking of, but when I put this budget together, I think that I reduced overtime from 30,000 to 25,000, so must have been getting a little cocky at that point. That I think I may have backed myself a little bit into a corner, given the fact that you got really 7 officers and only 1 part-timer. Premium pay for holidays comes out of that line item as well, along with overtime. So that number is probably going to go over a little bit. Relative to Public Works, I think I told you it was going to snow, and it did snow. And you can see that, I don't want to say that we're not going to buy any more salt, but I can tell you, I feel darn good about where we're at right now, all right? It's going to snow again, but my guess is that if you looked at a lot of other municipalities in the state of Vermont as to how they were doing with their salt budgets, they'd be a little jealous of this one right here. So obviously, Public Works is very good. You know, obviously, there's some highway improvements that are going to be done, but that's in really solid shape. Even though overtime is at 89%, you know, I'd like to think that we're out of the winter season here, so it's not like there's going to be much overtime from now until the end of the year. Fire department is basically spot on. They're under 75%, but again, those bonds have already been paid, and so that's in good shape. Recycling program is on target, and the sewer, you can see that we're at 77%. Same story. Insurance has been paid, bond has been paid, so I feel pretty good about sewer at this point. I still haven't taken the time to fully analyze the revenue stream for the new rates yet, but on the expense side, I feel pretty good. So that's that one. Northern Gateway sidewalk project bids. I apologize that I didn't print the one page, and I will get that to you. Because I want to be accurate here. I think that there was 7 to 9 bidders, so we had a good turnout of bidders. You know, and I wish I'm sorry. I know I sent Joe in the email. I have a spreadsheet. I have it, and I just failed to print it. So we had a good response. The low bid, and we have not awarded any contract, but the low bid was Don Weston at about $129,000. And if you remember the original project, it was with engineering and project management and permitting and all of that, that project had a total of $305,500. $305,000. That's what the original project budget was. The local share was $30,500. You allocated that from the water tower fund. The $274,500 is your grant, all right? This is you know, like learning experience about how much VTrans grant projects really cost, because there is certainly a factor in there of between if I had my public works guys go out there and lay sidewalk compared to going through all of this effort through these grants. Just keep that in mind if this type of thing comes up again. So, because the engineering cost for this project has been between $50,000 and $60,000, the project management for this project is probably about $30,000. There's been some permitting expenses, and then the construction bid is $129,000. And it's very surprising to think that a $305,000 project involves $129,000 of construction, okay? But anyway, the good news is that this project is under budget. And although you never know what's going to happen out in the field, there can be change orders, but I do not feel that I will be coming back here requesting any additional money from the water tower fund for this project. It will be done clearly under $305,000. So that's that one. Amendments to personnel policy. I actually had this up in the business section until I opened up Jill Muir's review of our personnel policy, and as I think I wrote everybody in the email, I really did not want to hastily make these final changes that need to be made. And so that's on my plate. So I will, I don't want to promise anything, but certainly my goal will be to review her proposed changes so that our personnel policies include the provisions that are in their model policy, and then make those adjustments and get that out to you as much in advance of the April 10th meeting as I can, in hopes that the board can take action on those updated personnel policies. So that's that one. The next item, the Shannon Mahoney complaint, I just want to read, if I can indulge the city council, I want to read a response that I've written, and I am sorry that it's a little bit lengthy, but the city council has a copy of Shannon's written complaint, and I think that Mike gave you all kinds of email information of the exchanges, but I just wanted to read this for the public, and in part, it's because the public actually, on occasion, speaks to Joan and I, and kind of, they read the newspaper and wonder whatever happened to that, and Joan and I feel that we can't communicate with folks, and so that's why I want to read this statement, so that our, or shouldn't say our, my response to that complaint is out there in the public, and so here I go. This memorandum is in response to the written complaint by Shannon Mahoney sent to former Mayor Michael Daniels on December 18th, 2017. The first part of her complaint is about her fundraising efforts for her project of stringing the lights on the trees and bandstand on the city green. In the past decade, Public Works Department employees have strung the lights. For the 2016 holiday season, it was accomplished with much assistance from the Vergennes partnership. For the 2017 holiday season, Shannon desired a much more significant display. I assumed her project was affiliated with the Vergennes partnership. I later learned that was not the case, as she undertook the project on her own. With the city not involved with stringing the lights, her project was subject to the city green policy as a display, which requires an application to the committee established under the policy. That did not occur and likely resulted in confusion. Shannon wrote an email on December 1, 2017 that excluded City Clerk Joan Devine, which said, "I need to know who in City Hall is advising the businesses to submit their sponsorship payment to the Boys and Girls Club instead of Raintree." I responded to Shannon to simply confirm that it was not me, and I copied Joan so that she would be aware of Shannon's discontent and could correct any misunderstandings. Shannon responded on December 2, 2017, that again excluded Joan. I responded and copied Joan. Shannon claims it was inappropriate for me to copy Joan on those related emails. I feel that copying Joan was not only necessary, but absolutely appropriate. There was nothing in the emails that was confidential. The second part of her complaint involves insurance for Holiday Stroll. Shannon's written complaint omits much of the details. At the City Council meeting on November 14, 2017, Alderman Lynn Donnelly brought up insurance. Shannon said that was not a problem, as she would contact her agent and get a binder covering the event. The next morning, Shannon called me asking exactly what her business would be liable for. Her written complaint states, and he said he did not have time to explain it to me. I admit I was short with her on the phone, but due to the nature of insurance and liability, it is not in the city's best interest to provide such specifics. Shannon followed up with an email that same day with the same question at 2:11 p.m. I responded via email at 2:30 p.m. advising that I was available to speak with her agent. Shannon responded via email at 4:39 p.m. to advise that the Boys and Girls Club had joined with the local businesses and are going to be sponsoring the organization for the festivities. A certificate of insurance was supplied by the agent of the Boys and Girls Club covering liability for the event, and Joan scheduled their use of the city green in accordance with the policy. Toward the end of her written complaint, she writes, Both Joan and Mel make decisions and choices without accountability or consequences. I think I can speak for Joan as well in this regard, as we both fully understand we are accountable to the City Council and there are consequences for any wrongdoing. In the same paragraph, she follows with, in speaking with many businesses and residents in our community, there have been countless occurrences of disrespectful and inappropriate behavior by City Hall employees. Joan and I feel we have tried to provide excellent customer service to our citizens, the business community, and visitors for nearly 4 decades. I am personally offended by such a baseless remark. I am sure Joan feels the same. So moving on under other topics, I want to just talk about a couple things. One is about the skate park. I just want to let you know that Lee Shorey and a student by the name of Carson Hoffman met with them recently. Carson is very interested in seeing some kind of improvements at the skate park. There was also an email that came in from a citizen, Amanda Guinness, earlier today that Rennie and I have had some exchanges with. And what I explained to, one of the things that I told Amanda is that I really think that the City Council should conduct a site visit at the skate park. Obviously it's still cold, but I think that I really think that the skate park has been there for, I'm not sure how many years, probably nearly 20 years. And I think, of course, Rennie and I can both say it wasn't built under our watch, okay? David, I don't know if you were on the board at the time, but anyway, the point is, I can tell you that Rennie and I both agree that it's ill-designed. The location's bad, it's hidden, it's plagued with design problems, and therefore is a problem. And so I really think that, Rennie and I, and hopefully you do too, would agree to some kind of a site visit, take a look at this thing, and if high school students, if they really want to get involved, I think that's great, all right? And we should involve them, but I really don't want to see this continue on for another 20 years. It really is not. It's not good. So anyway, like I say, sometime, I don't know that it's April, but I would like the City Council to keep that in mind to conduct a site visit at that location. The other thing I just want to bring up is just briefly about the swimming pool. Before I went on vacation, I met with Jennifer Kingsley. Jennifer will be returning as our director for the 2018 season. As I mentioned before, I can tell you the financial strength of the swimming pool was very much to her credit. So we ended up in a good place, and with her agreement to return is very good for us. Letters have gone out to past pool employees that have been requested to, if they're interested in continuing, to contact Jennifer by mid-April. So I never want to say that we had too many lifeguards, because it's better to have too many than not enough, for sure. But we really had a great team of lifeguards last year. We've been doing this for a number of years. Not all of them return, but there's other youngsters that receive their lifeguard certification, and with that certification, we typically give them a chance as an employee at the pool. So that is well in the works. Mark, I don't know if you'll be pleased to hear this or not, but you saw the bill, so the cement is on its way, so hopefully you've been doing your exercising here, because there's
all the way first.
so you got a little project coming. So hopefully we'll. And actually, I can't remember which meeting in April in the calendar, but obviously the swimming pool budget is the 24th, so we'll certainly get that to you by then. So I think that's all I had for topics.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Great. All right. Excuse me, I do have a proclamation to read that the mayor forwarded to us. I'll read that shortly, but first I wanted to say that personally, I would like to apologize to all of the parties that have been involved in this complaint. I apologize to our employees and everyone involved that we did not have a procedure in place. And it pointed out many shortcomings that we have had to deal with, and I think that we're taking them on. And I just want everyone to realize that we, as a council, I feel, may have dropped the ball, but I think that we're picking it up. So I wanted to say that to both of you.
Yep, thank you.
All right. Here is a proclamation regarding National Service Recognition Day. Whereas service to others is a hallmark of the American character and central to how we meet our challenges, and whereas the nation's cities are increasingly turning to national service and volunteerism as a cost-effective strategy to meet their needs, and whereas AmeriCorps and Senior Corps participants address the most pressing challenges facing our communities, from educating students for the jobs of the 21st century, to fighting the opioid epidemic, to responding to natural disasters, to supporting veterans and military families, and whereas AmeriCorps and Senior Corps participants serve in more than 50,000 locations across the country, bolstering the civic, neighborhood, and faith-based organizations that are so vital to our economic and social well-being, and whereas national service participants increase the impact of the organizations they serve, both through their direct service and by managing millions of additional volunteers, and whereas national service participants demonstrate commitment, dedication, and patriotism by making an intensive commitment to service, a commitment that remains with them in their future endeavors. And whereas the Corporation for National and Community Service shares a priority with local leaders nationwide to engage citizens, improve lives, and strengthen communities, and is joining with the National League of Cities, the National Association of Counties, Cities of Service, and local leaders across the country for National Service Recognition Day on April 3rd, 2018, therefore, be it resolved that I, Rennie Perry, Mayor of the City of Vergennes, do hereby proclaim April 3rd, 2018 as National Service Recognition Day and encourage residents to recognize the positive impact of national service in our community, to thank those who serve, and to find ways to give back to their communities. And that's all from up here. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank